When is this light ever gonna turn green? Oh, hi there. This is Vincent, and welcome to Right of Way, a vlog about traffic, transport, and road safety. Have you ever been stuck at a red light, wondering how long it's gonna take before it turns green? Or sometimes you're sitting at the red light, and you notice nobody's going through the intersection. Everybody seems to have a red light, wasting everybody's time. I've been at red lights where a traffic enforcer will actually wave me through, making me disregard the traffic signal. All of these situations and many more make me wonder about traffic lights. Who controls them? Who makes decisions about how long a red light is, how long a green light is? And sometimes it seems that the lights really aren't responsive to the traffic situation. So all of this has really got me wondering about traffic lights and why it seems that traffic lights really aren't coordinated, for one thing. For another thing, they don't seem to be responsive really to actual traffic conditions. So today's episode, what I'd like to do is take a little look into traffic lights and why they seem not to be responsive to our traffic situation. So about 5 years ago, in 2014, I noticed that along Katipunan, near the Miriam and Ateneo area, that the MMDA was reopening the intersections. And I got really concerned about the reopening of those intersections and the installation of traffic signals because my experience with traffic signals in the city, as a casual observer of these things, it seemed to me that the traffic signals had to be very responsive to the traffic situation along Katipunan. For those of you who aren't familiar with that area, of course you have the two major universities there, or schools, Miriam and Ateneo, and then you have UP just down the road. And so Katipunan takes on a very different character, one, during different times of the day, and two, during different seasons of the year. So for example, when school is not in session, Katipunan is relatively free and the majority of the traffic is really traveling north-south on Katipunan. During the school season, especially in the morning rush hours or in the afternoon rush hours, the traffic gets really heavy, and that's because cars are going in and out of these colleges and universities. So Katipunan takes on a different character during this time. And so I was wondering, as I was observing the installation of these traffic signals in 2014, if the MMDA, because they were the ones installing it, really considered the different off-peak and peak hours of Katipunan, because you don't want a traffic light that only has a single fixed timing for all times of day. So you can imagine, for example, that at midnight, when the two schools are closed and there's probably almost no traffic coming in or out of there really should be a signal to accommodate cars coming in and out of those schools, because there are none. Nearly 100% of the traffic is probably just going north-south on Katipunan. This is Katipunan northbound, the gate 3 of Ateneo, on a holiday, so there are no classes. Notice the red arrow on the right. When it turns green, it will remain so for 21 seconds. During this time, no cars exit the gate. In fact, for those 21 seconds, no vehicles pass through the intersection at all. The countdown timers on the lights tell you that they are on fixed timers, so regardless of peak or off-peak hours, the timing remains the same day and night, 24/7. During off-peak hours like this one, we have a dead intersection with north and southbound vehicles at a standstill. But what I noticed is that when the traffic lights were finally installed and working, and during the school season, what I noticed was that after a few weeks, the MMDA realized that their traffic lights weren't working as planned. So what happened was, and what still happens today, is during the rush hours, especially during the morning rush hours when school is in session, they actually override the traffic lights with MMDA enforcers who control the intersections. Now, to my mind, that kind of defeats the purpose of the installation of traffic signals. The reason you want traffic signals is to avoid the need for manual intervention. And yet, within weeks of the installation, that's what they were doing. And to me, that was a clear indicator that the traffic lights were a failure. The timing, at least, was a failure. The other thing I noticed also was that those lights were on fixed timers. The problem with fixed timers is it's completely not responsive to the current conditions on the road. And like I said, Ateneo, or rather Katipunan, has a different character when school is in session, when school is not in session, during the morning rush, during the afternoon rush, and in between. So as a casual observer, I looked at that and I said, well, shouldn't the lights have different timings depending on the volume of traffic going north-south, entering and exiting the schools? That would be a traffic light that is more responsive and perhaps could handle the varying situations. But so what the MMDA did, they just threw personnel on the problem. But see, this is the problem with what I see with a lot of our traffic lights. I'll be sitting in the intersection, and many times it's like everybody's waiting for their turn and the intersection is blank. There are no cars going through it. So you know that something's wrong with that. Or where the volume is heaviest in one direction or both, opposing directions, they'll get the shortest green light. And the street or the side of the road where there's little volume of vehicles, they'll get the longer green light. So those things don't make sense to me. And I really many times wonder about who's making these decisions. So what I found out, just doing some research, and I'm no expert, so if there are experts out there who want to correct me, please correct me. But what I've found out is, first of all, the traffic lights in Metro Manila are not controlled by one single entity. A lot of us tend to blame the MMDA for all the traffic lights, but when in fact they're not responsible for all of them. They are responsible for, if I'm not mistaken, over 400 traffic lights, 400 intersections, and these are probably on the roads where they have jurisdiction. These are national roads within Metro Manila. But when you get to local roads, the interior roads, for example, within Makati or inside the central business district of Pasig, those lights are actually controlled by the local governments. And then you have a third type of traffic light, and those are the traffic lights controlled by private entities. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong for those who know, the traffic lights within Bonifacio Global City, for example, are not run by the Taguig city government. They're not run by MMDA. I think they're run by the Bonifacio Development Corporation. So, in an ideal situation, you'd want traffic lights that are coordinated, right, throughout a city. And we'll consider Metro Manila as a single city, even if we have 17 or 18 different cities and municipalities within it. But as far as traffic is concerned, it really should be viewed as a single city. And yet, the traffic lights are controlled by different entities, so you will not have coordination. The other thing is that the timing, the cycle of the traffic lights many times seem to be unresponsive to the actual traffic situation. So there is this thing known as the cycle time of a signal. And the cycle time is basically the time it takes for traffic light in a particular direction to go from green to green or from red to red. So if you think about sitting at a traffic light and just as the signal turns red, if you time it through the whole cycle till it turns green, back to yellow, and then back to red, that's the cycle time of a traffic light. There's a chart that I saw on the internet when I was researching traffic signals that shows that cycle times beyond 60 seconds many times actually increases the time of delay of vehicles going through an intersection. So I took a look at this intersection here at Quezon Avenue, corner Agham Road in Quezon City. because I was sitting there one day and it just seemed so long. So I went out there and I timed it. One cycle, one complete cycle from red light back to red light. And the cycle is 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That's long. And the problem with that is when you have a cycle that is that long, traffic builds up in the other directions where there's a red light. And you know, vehicles, when the light turns green, vehicles don't all move at the same time. The guys in front start to move, then the guys behind them start to move, then the guys behind them start to move. So it's not a simultaneous movement of cars. And it takes a while for cars in the intersection to start moving and then cross the intersection. The problem is when the buildup is too, or when the cycle time is too long, you get a buildup of traffic in all directions. And this is what I noticed in this intersection. So I guess the point here is that there's a lot of research and knowledge out there about what are the optimal times for cycle times for traffic lights to maximize or to optimize the intersection. And like I said, according to what I've read, it's about 60 seconds, more or less, or up to maybe a minute and a half, 90 seconds, or even 2 minutes, 120 seconds. So all the knowledge is out there, all the studies have been done, all the simulations have been done, all the real world studies have been done. And yet it seems to me that none of that is being used here. None of that knowledge about what the optimal cycle times are seems to be used here. So we'll have traffic lights that have cycle times in excess of 3 minutes. And so it really makes me wonder why we can't seem to follow international norms and use knowledge that's already out there, knowledge that's already off the shelf. We seem to think that we're not able to have the kind of traffic throughput that we perhaps could have if we had better traffic signal technology. So anyway, those are my thoughts on traffic signals. If you have any comments, questions, photos or videos that you'd like to share with us, you can email us at rightofway@rappler.com, or you can send us a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at rightofwayph. Until then, this is Vincent, and I'm out of here. Stay safe on the road, guys.